If you're a parent whose child just recently started showing symptoms of what might be juvenile arthritis, let's say their joints started swelling, they start experiencing pain, different things are going on that led you to the pediatrician, which now maybe you're getting a mixed message on whether or not it's juvenile arthritis or if it's something else, or if maybe you aren't ready for that diagnosis and you want other opinions. Let's see, that's also very common. If you're in this situation, this video is for you. My name is Star Penn. I am the Leaky Gut Coach, and I am the creator and founder of the JIA Blueprint. Well over a decade ago, I helped reverse my daughter's juvenile arthritis, and now I help moms to do the same. I help to give you the knowledge, the confidence, and the strength to empower you so that you can calmly and also courageously battle the fight the battle that is sure to be ahead of you. And so people often come to me saying, "Hey, but I'm not really sure if it's JIA yet. I just want to get ahead of it in case it's juvenile arthritis. I may want to work with you, or I may want to, have some questions for you." And my answer always is emphatically this: get started now. Why do I say that? Well, when you go the medical route of things, which, by the way, I wholeheartedly support doing everything in tandem. If you have to do the medical stuff, it gets your child out of pain, all that wonderful stuff, if it works. But if you go the medical route, they're going to compartmentalize everything. And if you've seen any of my other videos about autoimmune disease, about juvenile arthritis, and all these different things that all of us as a society worldwide almost are being plagued with, is that we're rising in autoimmune conditions, neurological conditions, and all of these things. And the medical side of things wants to compartmentalize every single one as an individual thing. But I want you to put your thinking cap on a little bit, because we all have a television. And for the past 20, 30 years now, we've been bombarded on our TV and between our sitcoms and our shows for advertising for medications. Have you noticed that there's a small handful of medications and biologics that surprisingly are for very different issues, skin issues, different things across the board, and they're advertising the same medication? Well, that's because on some level, the medical community knows that they really are just dealing with one thing. The one thing that they're dealing with is suppressing the immune system, right? So we do know that the immune system is being activated. The one thing that we're looking at from a natural and a healing perspective is the root cause. So, yes, do we want to or need to sometimes get the immune system to stop attacking our child's joints and tissue? Yes. But that is only the symptom, the reaction of the body. What we're looking at from a natural perspective is, why did the body get like that in the first place? And so it really, and I mean really, does not matter if your child has juvenile arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, polyarticular arthritis. I even had someone recently come to me and said they were told their child had ortheo, a type of arthritis, which would be, more for old age. So we hear all sorts of things. And this may not go for every single one of you watching this video, so don't shoot me. But if you look back at whether it be your JIA child, or if you have other children, or yourself, or your partner, were there earlier on any digestive problems? Were there any skin problems? The allergies, asthma, eczema, things like that? The reason I ask is because it is very common, although it absolutely doesn't have to always happen in every single case. But in many, many cases, the body starts letting us know that things are going wrong for years before we ever get the joint pain. So even our kids are so little, we think, oh, they're so little. But I can just give the example with my daughter, Serafina. She was born constipated, and we were brushed off by the pediatrician. Before she was even eating solid food, she developed GERD, and her reflux was like projectile across the room. She developed multiple sinus infections, all before she was one, even like 1.5, between 1.5 and 2. They were chronic sinus infections. Never connecting these things. Never. When she was about 4, she started complaining of joint pain. But at the same time, she also developed this other digestive, I wouldn't call it that, it's digestive in a way, but it's a condition called encopresis, where she was so constipated that it's kind of gross to talk about. But when we finally went to figure out what was wrong with her, because she was in excruciating pain, the doctor took an x-ray and found that her stool came up to here. She showed me the x-ray. The stool, that's how much stool she had in her, and it's called encopresis. And it has to do with the sphincter and the ability to to feel the need to go and things like that. And it happens to some kids. But what we're seeing is kids that have these things early on, ear infections, sinus infections, and I don't mean because of the antibiotics, but even before. Then, skin issues, eczema, patchy skin, things like that. It could be constipation. It could be reflux. So Serafina did not have the skin stuff, but she had the other stuff. And I was never told to connect it. And now going back to when she was 4 and she started to complain of joint pain, I was sent to orthopedics to see if she needed a lift in her shoe. I was sent to chiropractors. I was told she had growing pains and all sorts of things along the way, all throughout the years. And it wasn't until she was 11 years old that they finally were able to detect elevated ANA in her blood and said, okay, now we're going to look at it. So we're going 11 years of my child's life of things that seemed completely unrelated, or even when they did start to relate, that I didn't get a diagnosis. Now I fast forward, I go through my journey, I learn the root cause of these things. I heal my daughter. I help other families to heal their children's juvenile arthritis naturally. And I think back about, man, if I could have known all this sooner. For one, she may never have developed juvenile arthritis. Well, she wouldn't have. If I would have known that there was something epidemic going on in the human family at a root level, at a gut level, I did not know that. And at the time that I did learn that, even 11 years later, I was still laughed off by the medical community to where I really did have to do this all by myself. Fortunately for you, this was 2012, so well over a decade. Fortunately for you, your doctors are going to be more familiar. Things like celiac disease have taken center stage. We understand things like removing gluten from the diet. Even though they say it may or may not help, at least you know now that you're dealing with a medical professional who is aware that the gut, many of them are aware, that the condition of the gut is the root cause of all of our autoimmune issues that are going on. And yes, allergies are an autoimmune issue. In a nutshell, autoimmunity is caused from invaders getting out into the bloodstream, into different organs and tissue in the body, and the immune system obviously saying, hey, you don't belong here, creating inflammation. That's in a nutshell what autoimmunity is. So if the gut wasn't leaking and we just ate our food and it went straight through the other end, we would not be allergic to the food. What's making our child allergic to a food or us allergic to the food is the fact that it has gotten into the bloodstream. So we see the rise of allergies, in the past 20, 30 years, where there were none to where there were a few, and now there's just so many. And so even things like allergies are an autoimmune issue. So that's why I say, don't wait for the diagnosis, because the diagnosis means very, very little. It becomes a moot point now, what you want to name it, because now we know what's going on in the body and why there's inflammation. And which means now we have control, we have power, and we can go ahead and we can do something about that and start working on it regardless. Okay? So I want you to get started modifying the diet, looking at detox methods. Of course, you can go check out my Facebook page, my public Facebook page, the Juvenile Arthritis and Uveitis Blueprint. I share these videos on there. I share my blog posts on there, and I answer people's questions there. So any questions that you have about what to do about your child's juvenile arthritis, you can follow me there. You can ask me right there in the comments, and I answer them daily. And you could also opt to work with me if you want to. But these are the things that I suggest you do before you even get a name. Because another really common one, right? I'm talking about all these allergies and things like this, but maybe you're saying, but Star, they don't know if it's Lyme or JIA. Really what we could do at this point, we could basically call let's just call every autoimmune disease Lyme, because they've made it this elusive thing where it's still the same fix. And, there's some natural practitioners that say it really doesn't truly exist. Let me quantify that. It doesn't mean that you don't have all these symptoms, which now we're saying you have Lyme disease, but that what we're learning about the bacteria in the body and the terrain of the body and just the overall dysfunction of what's taking over all of our bodies worldwide because of all of the pollution and the environmental toxins and all these things that we're exposed to. Bacteria that may sometimes act in a pleasant way start to act unpleasant, and then they create these unpleasant symptoms in the body. So, all of us, for instance, have these things already underlying in our body, the strep and the Epstein-Barr and the Lyme and all that, and they're not bothersome to us. Not that they're bad in and of themselves, but because of the terrain of the body, they morph and they turn into something a lot less pleasant. And then we end up with something that gets labeled as Lyme, which now they're treating that on the medical side with just heavy doses of antibiotics. Well, we have ways to treat that aren't going to kill all the good bacteria in your child's gut. Same thing with recurring strep. We have other autoimmune issues in the group, pandas, POTS, PANS, those ones that start with an underlying infection, something like Lyme, like strep, Epstein-Barr that I mentioned before. So what we want to do is we want to, yes, address those things, but how much more important to change the overall terrain of the body so that those things aren't expressing themselves in a negative way and they're not overpopulating themselves in the body, but that they're exactly where they need to be and they're performing the tasks that they're designed to and not becoming a nuisance in the body. So do you see we could waste a lot of time and we can go down roads of treatments that aren't going to heal our child, right? Yes, we can go and do the methotrexate and the biologics. Yes, totally do that. That's going to stop the inflammation. That's wonderful, right? Yes, if we choose to address the Lyme disease and go that medical route and just do however long they say to do antibiotics until they don't see it anymore, you can do that. My question is with either of those options, not to say that you can't, even in the blueprint, but then what? Right? You see where I'm saying then what? So there's the then what, and then there's like, well, why not just let's do it now? Because ultimately what we need to do, is we need to seal off that gut lining so no more toxins are pouring out, right? We know we already got, if your child has an autoimmune disease or issue, symptom, or a neurological symptom, that's in another video. But if they have neurological symptoms, it's also the same root cause, okay? If they already have these symptoms, that means these toxins are already everywhere, not just in that one particular joint or tissue that's inflamed. They're everywhere. That's just where the immune system is chewing at them and, cleaning house. But if you already have the symptom, that means the toxins are already everywhere. Number one, it means that our child's detox pathways are sluggish. The detox organs are no longer able to handle the toxic load that is being excreted into the body on a daily basis. So that's why sealing is so important. It's only one step, right? So we see all these like leaky gut supplements and different things on the market, and that's great. Some work a little, some don't work at all. We really want to go natural with it. Let thy food be thy medicine. But it is showing that the science is showing how important it is that we need to seal that off, because yes, while we already have toxins that need to be dealt with and excreted from the body, and we got to get the detox organs working again, we got to stop the flood of what's coming out, right? And I'll go back to my daughter's situation, right? All those rounds of antibiotics that we did for those sinus infections that were chronic when she was little. Well, maybe you went through something like that. Maybe it wasn't a whole bunch. Really, really, truly only takes one round of antibiotics. That's it. Because what do? We already know what they do. They completely wipe out the entire population in the gut to get the bad guys. And so that's how they work. And they work, right? They get the bad guys, but everything goes also. And when all that good bacteria is gone, we all have yeast in our body. And when all that good bacteria is gone, that is when yeast takes over and spreads. And boy, does it spread. And what is yeast like? Well, it likes sweet things. So even if you're just nursing, or even, or if they're just doing formula right now, they're not even eating food yet, you're feeding the yeast big time. And so once that yeast is spreading all inside the gut lining and getting out into the gut lining, the yeast is kind of what causes that leaky gut. It grabs a hold of the sides of the gut lining and covers it. So those are those little perforations that get created and things start pouring out. But that also leads to another problem. Now, all the villi in the gut lining can't absorb any of the good, healthy nutrition because the yeast is covering it all. So our child gets malnourished, which also could be part of what causes neurological development delays. It's usually more the gut-brain axis and the toxins getting out and toxins getting past the blood-brain barrier, creating inflammation in the brain. But also our kids' bodies are just growing and their brain is growing and needs so much dense nutrition at that young age. And now you're giving them all the right foods, but they're not really able to absorb the nutrients and the minerals from these foods. And so that also could lead to neurological stuff. So it's like a double whammy there. And that just leads me to my third argument to get started now is understanding that all autoimmune disease is one thing and all autoimmune and neurological conditions have the same root cause. The longer you wait, the more chance that you have that not only will this inflammation spread to other joints and tissue, but also to other organs. And this is why people that have autoimmune issues, especially if they're only going to deal with it with medication and stop the symptoms, is that when they come off, they either end up with joint pain again, either in the same place or in another joint and tissue. And they're like, we thought we had remission. Darn it. Now the doctor's saying we have to go back. Right? How will you, if you're watching this video, maybe you haven't even been there yet, right? You're at we're not sure if it's JIA yet. So this is down the road. This is what, or comes off, no joint pain, and then next thing you know, it's something else. It's something neurological or it's another autoimmune disease. And what ends up happening is autoimmune diseases stack. They never go away on their own. And that's only because if the toxins are constantly coming out of the body and we never get those detox organs cleared, then it's just a muddy situation in the body, and it's not a good environment for good bacteria, and really it's not a healthy terrain, so it's going to lean more towards having those bugs that morph and become acclimated to an icky terrain, for lack of a better word there. Not a medical doctor. Yeah, so that's why I highly, highly encourage you, don't wait. And another reason why, because whether or not it's JIA doesn't matter. What we're going to do is going to fix it regardless. Number two, we all need it. We all need it. We're about like, our kids are probably like fifth or sixth generation in the industrialized revolution, and everything that we've been exposed to, my generation, I'm about 50. My generation is, I think, really where we really started to like get a lot of fast food, a lot of microwave foods, a lot of packaged foods, Capri Sun, all that, and our lunch. Not so much the boomer generation, although they had candy and soda shops and things and that. Some kids maybe did get sick young, but it was rare. And then my generation was pretty rare to get sick. But then when we started to see, after living like that since you're born and then having children, these next generations, it's really just bottlenecked to where they were just born like that. So I like to say, and we can see it, so I'm not making it up, our parents, us, and our kids are all developing autoimmune disease at the same time. It's an interesting phenomenon, I know, but that's what's happening. It's the world that's sick. It's an uphill battle to fix it. Don't get me wrong. It's not easy. It's not for everybody, but that is what's happening in all of our bodies. So I would just go ahead, assume, no matter what, and even if let's say you have one child with JIA and your other kids, you want to do this with everybody. The yeast overgrowth, the leaky gut, the detoxification, the malabsorption of nutrients. This is going on across the board with all of us. So it's really up to us to take the reins of our health. We do not need a named diagnosis to start healing the body. Okay, I hope that resonates with you. Hope that makes sense. Hope it motivates you to say, okay, I don't need you to tell me what's on paper. Just, I realize something is wrong. If there's inflammation in the body, guess what? The immune system is not attacking a healthy tissue. It's not a confused immune system attacking healthy tissue and joints. It's an innately wise immune system detecting toxins in the joints. Say that. I'm going to say it one more time. You don't have a confused or overactive immune system attacking healthy tissue. You have an innately wise, intelligent, best friend immune system that is telling you that there are toxins in that joint and tissue. When it cleans them out, you see the inflammation. That's what the inflammation is. It's the immune system communicating to you. These toxins should not be there. And so it's our job now to close them off, heal the damage. Okay, so again, one more time for emphasis, just get started. Just start healing. Start making dietary changes. Start changing the terrain of the gut. Follow people like me on Facebook and here. You can email me, jiablueprint@gmail.com. You can go to my website, jiablueprint.com. Tons of blog posts there. There's ways to speak to me directly, and I'd be happy to guide you in whatever direction you want to go. So please just go ahead and get started. We all need this. And if I didn't say it already, Whatever you apply to your child that has this joint pain, apply it to everybody in the family. Just because some people don't have symptoms doesn't mean that they don't have the exact same thing going on in their body. They likely do. Okay, I'll see you on the next video.